Hey, everybody. It is so wonderful to be talking to the fantastic Mr. Peter Lawrence again. I have him here today. We have decided to come back and talk some more because last time we basically ran out of time and there's a lot to say about ThunderCats, as you guys know. So I would like to welcome Peter. Uh, hi. Hi, and welcome again. How are
Thanks so
you
much.
today?
Thanks. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
So since our last conversation, the feedback on my end has been tremendous. I mean, Thundercats lovers have asked for your return to the channel. So what has been going on your end since we last spoke?
I've been posting on the website, which actually is kind of disappointing. There's no real, I don't have a counter on it, so I don't know how many people are reading. I mean, people like you and Buddha, for example, have said that a lot of people have responded to reading the Thundercats of the Day or that whole page, Thundercats and more. I don't see it. And as you know, I put out a call for listen, anybody, whether you worked on the show, whether you loved the show, or you hated the show, contact me. I've had one contact, which is kind of surprising to me. That was Ryan and David. And at least I may have had, I think I've only had one. It just surprises me a bit because of two things. First of all, because as you know from last time, I'm stunned by the amount of energy and enthusiasm that whole kind of aficionado base has. And secondly, I think there's material on this site that nobody knows. I mean, not much, but and certainly I would continue and probably open up a little more if I thought it was worth it, if I thought people were interested. Um, the other thing that I've come to think about is that you could tell me I'm completely wrong, because remember that I haven't really been involved in this whole world of the aficionados much, hardly at all, until Buddha contacted me about the first book. But it seems to me, just watching it and the people that I have talked to, that there's a shift from the show to the collectors, and it's not surprising. I thought about it actually, and it's not surprising because for us who made the show, no matter how much we loved it or how much we enjoyed it or hated it for that matter, it doesn't really matter. It was basically, in my case, 2 years of my life in a career that's spanned way too many decades. So, I realized looking back that it probably is one of the most important, if that's not the right word, maybe, but one of the most, I don't know, one of the biggest. I don't know how to describe it. One of the most important things I ever did, but it was a job. Now, and when I first took it, which I think I said to you, or anyway, I've written about, yeah, it was just a job. I took a contract. And then as I got into it, I thought, wow, this is way more than I ever realized. And then all these years later, it's way more than I ever realized. So, I mean, that's basically what's been going on. I've been talking to Buddha about doing some events next year as a kind of dynamic duo, or maybe not so dynamic duo, I don't know, because basically he's Mr. Collector, Mr. Collector Guru, and I'm Mr. Show. So it's quite an interesting combination, I think.
Well, that's fantastic to hear
Um,
because I don't think there's a lot of presence out there. We have the voice actors that make appearances, but from behind the scenes, more I don't. You're the first person that I know of that has come out publicly and been interacting with with the
Yeah.
fans of the show. So that
Yeah.
it's high time that somebody comes and tells the story of the show that's been involved in it. So that's good.
Well, I
I'm
think
very
it's
happy.
also it's quite an interesting dynamic because, like I said, you got Mr. Collector, and obviously, if you were here, I wish you were. But there's Mr. Collector or a couple of Mr. Collectors, and there's Mr. Show. But there's also, if I were promoting these events, I would be saying, okay, for years you've had the voices. Now you got the guy that put the words in the voices. And I think that's an interesting combination. But I don't know, Edmund. I mean, I don't know anything about this world, so I may be full of shite.
No, I think it's good. It gives us a different angle, and a deeper appreciation. I mean, I'm a collector as well, but I would not have been a collector if it wasn't for the show. So
Right. Yeah.
even seeing even owning these action figures, it's not because they are toys, but it's because they represent a 3D version of the show, and I wouldn't have collected it if it wasn't for the show. So I do think that it's important that while I am a collector, and we have to acknowledge that none of this would have been possible without the show. So it's
No,
good
no,
to get you out there.
yeah, no, I mean, I can see that. It just seems to me that, there's another thing which is kind of sad to admit that it seems to me, and everything I say, completely open to correction, but it seems to me that the bulk of this whole group of aficionados is, around about their 40s. They're around about 40, whatever it is. The bulk of the people who worked on the show are a lot older. And they, because they're not Mumra, are going to disappear, and what will remain for a number of years anyway is this tremendous enthusiasm for collecting the memories of the show or whatever it is. And unless somebody comes up with a new Thundercats that's as compelling and big as the original, it is going to die.
Yes.
And that to me, that's a little bit sad. So let's keep it going as long as we can. And by the way, on that front, Chris and I are seriously thinking about writing a couple of Thundercats novels. So we'll see. I mean, there's obviously a few hoops to jump through. I mean, there's the whole question of the rights from Warner's. I'm inclined to say, I can't think of a polite way of saying this, but I'm inclined to say, you know what? No, back out, or you can cut it up. Fuck you. You never paid all the royalties that you owed everybody. It's virtually a PD show now. You don't care much about the franchise. You're putting out some awful material. So yeah, sue me. I don't care. And let's watch the sales go through the roof. That's my very aggressive view. Chris is a much more he's a much subtler and kind of more equable guy, And if we do it with David, then obviously, we've got to have the rights. But I feel fairly aggressive about, especially as I've picked up a lot of information that I never had before as to how Warner's and originally Rankin Bass, and then Warner's have treated various people, which is a damn shame. Here you've got a show that's promoting loyalty, honesty, the whole code of Thundera, and the people who ran it they've trashed it. They've trashed that, and that's I find that very sad. I mean, I guess it's show business, but it's very sad.
Well, I think it's good that there's people that still care about the IP that wants to see it succeed. I know there's a new Masters of the Universe movie coming out next year, and that is, I mean, the last one was in the 80s, or it was in the 80s that came out. So there has never been a Thundercats movie. And I'm of the opinion that the people that's been working towards getting this Masters of the Universe movie actually out and filmed and all of that are paving the way forward to make it possible for Thundercats to actually also thrive, because once that is out, people are just gonna see there is still a big love for this IP. And it the more there is that people support something like this, the better are the chances for Thundercats. So if you can deliver another, I don't know whether you are thinking of a continuation of where the cartoon ended, or whatever direction it is that your book is going to take. If people are going to find out that the writers of the original series is continuing the story, that would just be, that's the first selling point immediately. That to me is like, I want that. I think that's
Yeah, well,
fantastic.
I mean, there are two things about that, two, related. I've never understood why Warner's didn't do a movie. I do understand now, because it, compared with the whole sort of Marvel universe, Thundercats is pretty small, and it's not going to support a $200 million movie. But I think it would support a very, a low budget movie, because it's character driven, A, and B, because the way special effects and animation are now much, much less expensive. But let's leave that on one side, because Warners are not going to, go for a $35 million Thundercats movie, because those guys, or never mind Warners, those studios like their $200 million movies, because the producers all take enormous fees, millions of dollars. Now, if you got a $35 million movie, $50 million movie, you can't take that money out. So there are two, there's the audience maybe not there, and there's not a kind of internal incentive for the studio. That's sort of that's just my view. I mean, I don't have any inside information. As far as a continuation goes, I think the way to do it is a series of 1 hour specials, televised. Like it lends 5-parters, like the 5-parters I wrote. That, I think, because you could put 2 or 3 of those out a year, and you're going to be able to make them for a competitive price, and they'll have huge audience streaming. So, I mean, to me, that's a commercial no-brainer. And I've actually just found and contacted the Japanese animation studio that does the most spectacular work, much in the style, or some of it, in the style of the title sequence, that kind of, quasi-anime. And I think if you did something like that, with that kind of quality, a little bit more sophisticated in the writing, because the audience is older, maybe a little more humor, because the original show, probably partly my fault, is a little po-faced. It's a little kind of, and I think there's room for a bit of humor. So, but I would take it from the first, I don't know, 40 odd episodes. I would go back to that world with the focus on the original characters, focus on the original problems, really take the original to greater depths, if you like, a greater drama. I would not want to populate it with hundreds of all the guest characters that we had, and the new Thundercats, and that. I mean, I understand why they're there. I'm not knocking it, but I think that the essence of the show is what one should develop. And I think that if we didn't, I think that, the real hardcore fans would feel cheated.
Well, that's a. I mean, Netflix is probably the biggest in the world. So I would love a limited series to come out of Thundercats, and if it works, I mean, why not? Why not? We need to get you in there. We need to get you in there to write the story. I mean, you know the story. You created the
Yeah,
stories.
no, I mean, and actually, I mean, this is probably not very wise to throw this out into the open. But I mean, I've talked to a number of the original crew, and we could put together a great package. I mean, it would be a lot of the original crew, this animation house that's absolutely stunning, the two writers that wrote, what, 40, 60 odd episodes between them. And one of the producers, original producers of the show, or one of the original production staff, has gone on to a hell of a career in animation and knows everybody in terms of production, the perfect producer. So, there's a package ready to go. The question is how to persuade Warner's, which is obviously a pitch. Well, nobody's taking pictures between Thanksgiving and the New Year. That Los Angeles shuts down, A, and B, Warner's is trying to sell itself. So I don't think anybody's going to be paying attention to that, for the moment. So that, you asked me what's been going on since we spoke. That's
That's
been
quite a
going on.
bit. That's quite a bit.
Yeah.
That's exciting news. It's like ThunderCats is besides the toy lines that's been happening across the many platforms. It's and the comic books. It's getting a new life again, and it's like this new push, this renewed energy, and you're giving me hope for seeing lots of new things. So and the
Yeah,
original
well,
team as well.
yeah, no. I mean, well, not all of them, because a lot of them are either brown bread or they're not interested. And that's another, going back to the, Thundercats are more Thundercat of the day. Some of the crew just, I don't know whether they haven't seen the emails, whether they don't care, just not really been very, I mean, it's been interesting to see that the fan base posts, you and all the others, generally speaking, are much more emotional and much deeper and much more personal than the crew sharing, and which I think I find very interesting. The one crew member, and I haven't put him up yet because I'm still waiting for more material, who really did kind of open up, is Chuck Hasegawa. And I'm still waiting, eventually I'll get Chuck on the site. But relatively speaking, you guys have responded much more, I'm repeating myself, much more emotionally, more profoundly maybe, than the crew. Again, not surprising maybe, because the crew, the show passed through their lives. It was fun. They all love doing it. A lot of them have said it's the best job they've ever had. But it lasted 2 years. Went, gone.
That's interesting. That kind of ties in what I wanted to ask you next is, as a crew member or a writer for the show, it was just a job, like you said. But the reach of that show towards the audience, you are probably still surprised by the scope of how far and wide it reached the kids of the 80s. I mean, it's like you said, it is more personal. It touched me personally, so obviously it shaped me as a person, but I was not involved in it in any way besides watching it. So it played a different role in my life versus you guys who were the creators. Is it? Well, I suppose you just answered that, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I've said this before, so there's nothing new about it. When I first went there, it was a job, and it wasn't even a secure job. I mean, it was basically, I went because Jules asked me to show up and take a look. When I started, and as you know, because I've said this before, so we can cut all this crap out, but I'd never written any animation. I didn't know anything about animation. I didn't written anything for kids. I didn't know anything about kids. I grew up, no television, no nothing. And I'm not even particularly fond of kids. I'm not sentimental about children. So I started work on it, and okay, the morals. I thought, okay, fine, morals, But after a very short while, I realized that this was way more than what appeared on on the page, as it were, on paper, on and the first shows coming back. I realized how much more it was, and how valuable it was from my point of view to have at the base of every story some kind of worthwhile theme. Don't really like to call it morals because that sounds a bit kind of preachy. So, and then, time went on, and I just got more and more into it. And yeah, it was just a job insofar as I was contracted to write a show, just a job. But it was way more than just a job. Um, and Lee, well, I think everybody actually. I mean, I think we all took it very, very seriously. And I mean, this sounds really bow-faced. I, but I think we really did. Yeah, I think we took it very seriously. I mean, I've taken other contracts where actually I haven't. That's a lie. I was going to say where I didn't really care. I don't think I've ever worked on anything I didn't care about. I mean, even The Burning, which was an awful experience for me. I thought it was, like going to be like a Hitchcock. What you don't see is much more frightening than what's on screen, and the whole sort of technique of writing horror. So I did care about it. I mean, in the end, it turned out to be something else altogether. So yeah, I mean, recently I took that Indian contract, and one of the shows there, I realized there's a bit of a digression, but obviously you can cut it out. It was a show about a tomato, but it's about fruits and vegetables for young kids, and they don't get on, and they're trying to escape from the store because they don't want to be cooked. In the middle is a tomato that doesn't know whether he's a fruit or a vegetable. And at first I thought, yeah, it was just funny. But then I thought, this is a metaphor for kids who don't know who or what they are. And I still think if I could buy the rights to that show because the company basically closed, I think you could make a fantastic show for young kids who are looking for their identity.
Well, that's
Because
a
at
brilliant
school
analogy.
you got the vegetables, and you got the fruits, you got the thugs and the artists, you got the and in the middle is this kid who doesn't know what he is, And you don't have to hit it on the head. It doesn't have to be preachy or nothing. It can be funny, but basically, a lot of kids, and I mean, I've discovered this, talking to a lot of ThunderCats people. And I'm not just talking about their, sexual orientation necessarily, but they're lost at school. They don't know who they are. They don't know which group they belong to. They don't know, or they're lost at home, and so on and so forth. And these are the elements that I picked out of the fan group that I just sit back and think, holy shite, this really was worth doing. It really was worth writing this show.
Well, I can agree. It really, I mean, for me, like, first of all, because it was fantasy, it was a wonderful escape, but it became something more than just an escape. It was it felt like a safe place to go to, and it still does. It still does.
Yeah.
So, talking about safe places to go to, I asked you last time, spending your youth in Africa, how it influenced your writing for ThunderCats. But seeing as you've never lived outer space, I want to know what influenced your futuristic writing for SilverHawks. I mean, you mentioned last time that the SilverHawks Bible was that you put together was rather bonkers. So, what made you go in that direction, and what inspired you?
I saw that question that you were going to ask me, and I thought, I have no idea how I can answer that because, um, I guess I read my share of science fiction, but you could barely describe Silverhawks as science fiction or science fantasy. It's kind of science bonkers, you know.
Absolutely, it is bonkers.
And I think probably that's the key for me, that I love absurdity. Um, and I think absurdity is a very powerful weapon too, by the way. Um, Not necessarily in Silverhawks, but in generally, if you're trying to provoke people or open their minds or make them laugh. Um, so I think that once the idea of this galaxy was mooted by Jules, and that the heroes would be partly metal, partly real, um, and they'd be guided by this kind of rather Raymond Chandler type character. I just ran with it. I thought, okay, let's see, and I honestly cannot tell you that any logical impulse or any literature or any movie inspired me. In fact, I kind of protected the absurdity because Masaki, Pacific Animation Corporation, and various other people, but particularly Masaki, who I have tremendous respect for, would look at this stuff and say, "This is insane. It doesn't. None of it makes any sense. There is no night in space. There is no day in space. There is no gravity. You can't breathe. I mean, just this whole range of perfectly reasonable criticism." And I just no, I'm sorry. This I know. No, 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 no. It's going to be like that. That's it. And Limbo Galaxy's going to have a frontier all around it, like Chaka's Thorn. God, I can't remember the word. Anyway, thorn fence, that he put
Yes.
kraal, that he put all around the cattle. So, and I drew that in the original material for the Bible. Okay, that's it. You can't go beyond that. It's too many thorns. Well, if you think about it, that's a 2D fence, and space is 3 or more D. So of course you can get out of it. I mean, none of it makes any sense.
Now, from Silverhawks, it was followed by Tiger Sharks. Were you in any way involved or requested to be involved with Tiger Sharks, the cartoon?
Oh yeah, I mean totally. I mean, I was basically, I don't know what you would call it, but I was basically the writer on, development writer on everything. I mean, even, well, I gave it up pretty damn quickly. Mini Monsters and Street Frogs. No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not crazy about Tiger Sharks. I think the genre was shot by then, and but no, yeah, I think I almost certainly yeah, I wrote the Bible and the first shows. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Do you have any special memories of Tiger Sharks that stand out, like the other twos, that is special to Tiger Sharks for that you'd like to share?
Not of Tiger Sharks itself. I mean, I think by that time, Egmont, it was kind of routine. I don't mean, where would you take it? I mean, you've got people in limbo. You got Thundercats on Third Earth and Thundera and this that, and the other, and you got Tiger Sharks in the water. Okay, all right. Now, so where do you go? It's like it wasn't a new. Silverhawks was new. It was absurd and bizarre and blah. Also followed its rules. I mean, you couldn't break the rules. Tiger Sharks, okay, it's Thundercats underwater, or it's Silverhawks underwater, or I don't know, you know. And actually, I think everybody knew at Rankin Bass and in the wider world that that kind of action adventure fantasy was dead. And the focus went to the other three shows, only one of which I really got and liked. So that's really my memory, you know, that I focused on getting the other shows up and running, which meant finding somebody to run mini monsters, because what the hell would a kid who grew up in the bush know about summer camp in America, right? And street frogs, because what the hell is a bunch of white middle class guys writing about black kids? No, no, they're frogs. No, they're not. They're black kids on the streets. Although I did, you know, I did the liaison with Jesse Jackson's people and all that stuff. And then, you know, Karate Cat, I love Karate Cat. So that was, you know, and by that time, I mean, I was doing way more editing than original writing, as you can tell from the credit lists, you know.
So, you mentioned that they could see that the interest had waned a little bit in these types of shows. Is it evident because of, I mean, Thundercats was 135 episodes, Silverhawks was 63, and then Tiger Sharks was what 30 odd episodes.
Silverhawks was 65 episodes,
Yeah.
Thundercats was 130.
Do you think that was evident enough of saying there is not as big an interest in having these many episodes? Is that probably why a shorter order was placed for Tiger Sharks at the end?
Yeah, well, I mean, and it was part of a, you know, a 65 show block. Just depends how you break it up, you know. I know, you know, again, we could do some research on it, but I think at that time that, I mean, I don't know what was happening with He-Man, and the various spin-offs of that show, but I think that the emphasis was going more towards, you know, what you might call stupid shit shows. And I'm not knocking them for that. I just mean that they're, you know, Ren and Stimpy and blah, blah. I mean, there's a completely different style of show. And unfortunately for me, despite the fact that I started my career writing humor, I had, after those 200 and something shows, oh yeah, you're Mr. Action Adventure. No, well, it's really hard to break that mold. So I think a combination of that, and I mean, you know, I don't even know how much reputation counted for selling Tiger Sharks. Rankin Bass reputation, yeah, obviously. But did they say, well, you know, we've got the team that did these two very successful shows, and had they come up with a comedy, out and out comedy show, could they have sold it as effectively, the same team? I honestly don't know the answer to that.
So our conversation about Mongor last time was a delight. Apart from the inspiration, was it your idea to make the kittens the culprits who set him free because of their curious childlike nature?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just as simple as that. I mean, there's no great, you know, deep, yeah, no profound reason. I mean, they're just a couple of kids who is a bit like Pandora's box, you know, just curiosity, bang, there it goes. And then, of course, it's completely beyond their control. So,
well, what happened was terrible, but it turned out fantastic in the end. So I've put my feelers out so far, but nobody has owned up that they have the Mongor script, or know somebody, or even know that they actually do have it. So I'm just mentioning it again. If anybody does have it, let us know, because we'd like to see the drawings that you put on there about the
no,
Mongor,
I
or the
didn't
descriptions.
draw. The description, yeah.
Description,
I'm
sorry, the
sure
notes.
that the description, the real question is the description in the script, or did I give that to the artist separately? I'm pretty certain, in fact, I'm as close to 100% as I can be, that I did, as it were, design or whatever you want to call it, that design, because as we said, it's based on a Dennis Wheatley front cover. And
Now,
who, nobody in that crew would even know who Dennis Wheatley was.
so you mentioned this last time that it was based on the Devil Rides Out, correct?
Yeah.
Now a friend of mine sent me the poster of that movie, and I could clearly see the inspiration. It really does look like Mongol is standing there. But are there any other characters that you created that has been inspired by movie creatures or stories that you grew up with that you developed for
No, I don't
one of
think
the shows?
so. I mean, I would have to go through every script, and I mean every script, because obviously, um, yeah, I'm a little cautious sometimes about the way I talk about this, because I don't want to seem as if I'm playing my own fiddle. I did a lot of rewriting, a huge amount of rewrite on ThunderCats, but well, and on SilverHawks. So it could well be, and I could only tell by reading every script or at least looking at every show. It could well be that I or Chris or possibly Bill introduced characters or modified characters that the original writers proposed, possibly. I don't recall being inspired by any movie or any piece of literature. And the inspiration, if that's the right word, for Mongol, it wasn't, oh, look at this cover. That's a character. I'm going to use him. It was, I wanted to write a story about the devil, and I knew I couldn't.
Mm.
So I wrote a story about Mongol. And then I thought, okay, what does he look like? He looks like Dennis Wheatley's devil. That's really it. And then, I backed off that kind of slightly harder edge, when it came to things like good and ugly, And then the other thing that happened, Egmont, is that at some stage as we were going on, we realized that, the writers basically, and I think we touched on this in the last conversation as well, okay, I get it. It's a show about a whole bunch of mutant human cat thing, people, whatever they are. I don't want that. I'm going to write about something else. I'm going to write about another character. And you can't do that. You can only do it if your other character is integrated into the show, is a sort of logical reason for it to be in the show. And so to combat that tendency, which obviously somebody like Bill Overgard went overboard, every script was a new absurd character. But to combat that, we kind of reined in that, okay, no more guests, no more scripts that rely entirely on the guest.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Because there were quite a number of guests all throughout the
Oh,
series.
yeah, a lot of guests.
Now, the time capsule, that is something that you also created. But in that episode, you don't actually see what it does.
No,
You only see that later in the Bob Haney episode, Return to Thundera.
yeah, yeah.
Now, did you leave any instructions on how to use it, or were there other incidents where you had to communicate with the other writers about using something that you created and started a storyline for that if they were to continue with it, that it had to do this or it had to do that? Was there any such communication about specific items or creations?
No, actually it's the other way around for me. Everybody that runs shows edits or has their own approach. My belief and approach is let the writer, artist, just let them go. They've read all the scripts, they've seen the show, or they should have read all the scripts. If they want to use something, let's see what they do with it. And then at that point, say, no, you can't do that with it. That's not what it does, or that's too out there, or it's too boring, or whatever it is. I mean, it's a very sad thing, I really believe wholeheartedly that you have to let whatever the creative person is, you have to let them go. You have to let them be free. And then if you're running a show and it's your responsibility, and maybe I took it too seriously, then when you've got the draft or the outline or whatever it is, that's the time at which you can say, okay, these rules apply. And I extend that, nowadays, if you submit, you have to submit your scripts in final draft. I've never heard for years of anybody submitting a script in anything other than final draft, even screenwriting. I got scripts handwritten on legal pads. Nobody nowadays, nobody would read that. Nobody. And I think that's wrong. And by the way, one of the scripts that I got written on a legal pad was by a guy who was 60 years old. So he'd never written anything before. So, when you talk about new writers, they don't have to be young. They don't have to be English or ethnic or this or that or the other. It's just the idea that counts, nothing else. And if you are any good at all, technically, as a writer, you should be able to turn it into a piece of drama. And that I considered to be my job. I mean, I had the job of original material and the job of taking something that maybe wasn't well written or written by somebody who didn't really understand animation, which is ironic considering my background, didn't understand how the Rankin Bass system required that we directed everything. Everything. You didn't just hand it over to a storyboard artist like the regular system. And maybe the writer didn't know how to do that. Maybe they didn't have a cinematic feel for thing or whatever it is, or the rhythm or whatever. You as the story editor, unless you're an arrogant son of a bitch, you ought to be able to do that. That's your job, to turn Egmont's idea into a ThunderCats script. And I really feel very, very passionately about that.
Well, it came across very, very evidently in what you did. So you can see that this was made with love and that there is a passion for it's, I won't say your hobby, because it's part of your soul. It's something that you shared with others. And it's amazing. I mean, I'm a writer as well, so I know when I write stories, it's coming from inside. It's always done selfishly because I enjoy creating something, and that's probably I don't know what it's like for you. Even though it is a job, it is still something that is it comes from inside. I mean, you're exposing yourself as a creator. You are showing people a piece of yourself. That's my opinion about it anyway.
Yeah, no. I mean, it has to go beyond a job. I mean, and look, we're privileged. I mean, what an incredible gift from wherever it comes, the universe or whoever the hell it comes from, to be able to make a living out of something you feel passionate about. And I'm not necessarily talking about the show so much as the actual process of writing. I mean, I love doing it. A lot of writers don't. They hate it. they hide away in their corners and they, I don't know. I've said this to you before. I'm not a great fan of writers, because listen, man, do you know how hard it is to work as a street sweeper or digging holes in the road or driving a cab or waiting tables? I mean, every day the same, the same, the same. You have freedom. And so yeah, it's just a job insofar as you get paid for it. But then take out the just as a contract, and if you don't like doing it, get out, go do something else, and don't come to me with your broken leg. I mean, it's like, well, don't come running to me with your broken leg. I don't want to hear your complaints about it. Whatever your angst, personal angst, and I mean, some guy said to me, well, I called him and said, where's my script? You're a week overdue. And we were really on a tight schedule. Well, I'll have it to you 2 days later. Where is the draft? Where is it? I paid you. Where's the script? Oh, my boat sank.
Oh gosh.
How's that my problem? I mean, how's that any reason not to have written your damn script?
Unless you were on the boat.
Well,
going down
he
with the
lived on
ship.
the boat. He lived on the boat, but so what?
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
at least I think he did. But if your boat sank when you were in the middle of a job, you do the work.
Yeah.
And so I have this kind of dichotomy of, yeah, it's a job, not contradiction. Yeah, it's a job. Yes, it's for pay. Yes, you can write for yourself. If you want to write your own stuff and, do it under the covers with a flashlight or in some dark corner somewhere, that's fine. That's your business. But if you're writing on contract and being paid for it, sure, it's not an art at that point. It's a business.
Yes.
It uses art. It uses the art of writing. I'm sorry, I'm off beam. Anyway, that's so when you run a show, you run into all that stuff because you're handling 15 writers.
Yes. Now we talked about this last time, but I just want to touch a little bit on the 2011 ThunderCats show that you worked on, that episode. But I'd like to know a bit more about the inspiration for the story that you wrote for that show. You only wrote the one. Were you given guidelines at the start, say they need to end up here, or they're starting up here and they have to go there? Where, because that episode itself is bonkers. That is really bonkers, but it's a good bonkers. It's a Peter Lawrence bonkers. So what was your inspiration for that episode?
When I talk about that series, I've been very rude about it, and I probably shouldn't be. I did not get on with those guys. There was absolutely no magic between. I mean, on the original ThunderCats, I can't remember. I mean, I'm sure there were moments that weren't magical at all, but I don't remember there being any major. I don't remember there being moments of no connection. I had no connection with those guys, and I don't think they wanted me to write for the show. I think they brought me in initially to look at the show either as a courtesy or because somebody at Warner's told them to. The idea for that show came from them, as in my memory, my memory. I wrote a draft, and I don't think I wrote more than one draft. I might have written 2 drafts, and it was finally rewritten substantially by them. So I can't really say the word inspiration doesn't apply to that at all.
Okay. you there was meant to be a second season for that series. Um, were you at the time, while it was still being planned, involved or approached for being involved again as a guest
No,
writer? Not.
nothing. No. I mean,
Okay.
I met them once. I wrote the one script. I never had any contact with them again after that. I believe, and again, I think we mentioned this before, that Matthew Malik was called in by them and met them once. And I don't want to put any words in Matthew's mouth, but I don't think he was particularly impressed. And I think, I could be wrong, I don't know whether Dennis was called in or anybody else, but I believe that only Matthew and I spoke to them. And I had no inkling of whether there was a second season coming. And at that point in my life and career, ThunderCats was gone. I mean, it was in the, that I had no idea of how big it was in the fan base. I had no idea of how many followers there were. I had a couple of incidents, like the thing in Jamaica that I told you about. I think I was interviewed by an Argentinian newspaper, but just nothing like now, nothing like what we're doing now, nothing like that. So I had no investment in it. I had no, if somebody had said to me, I had no contact with Warner's or the whoever was in charge of the show above those guys. If I had, and I'd known there was going to be another series, I don't know, season, I don't know, maybe I'd have spoken to them, and I don't know, honestly don't know.
Okay. Um, Now you now mentioned that there were some changes to your script, the draft that you presented to them. Do you ever watch episodes after they've aired or once they've aired, um, and then look back at what you came up with, whether it's been changed or not, and then do you find yourself trying to correct yourself from things that you've written, or think maybe it could have worked better in this direction or that direction after you've seen the episode? How is your reaction as a writer towards the final product, whether it's now the original series or the second iteration?
Well, I think I would be very surprised if a writer didn't look at his work or her work on screen. I would be surprised. Um, I, Again, you can come across really arrogant. I've written two or three screenplays that were way better in their original than what finally appeared on screen. Way better. Um, the or not, or perhaps not being produced. I mean, I've written obviously everybody writes screenplays to get sold, and then some other writer gets put on it, and then some other writer, and then some other writer, and then the dog walker's girlfriend's boyfriend. And by the time that you see the script that they're now taking out to sell, you think it's nothing like the original, or not as good. Or you can look at the successive drafts and say, yeah, that's better. The thing about animation, and particularly Rankin Bass, is that what you write on the page is going to appear on screen. And that is a real treat for any writer. Because so often, I mean, look, the first draft of Gladiator, Russell Crowe, not the first draft, when Russell Crowe signed on and is openly saying the script was a complete piece of shit and I saved it. Well, really? Did he? Is that true? Was it a complete piece of shit? If it was, how did it get sold? It's like, it's so personal. And I can tell you, that in my career, it's the animation and the books, obviously, that have appeared as I wrote them, more or less. It's the other stuff that hasn't.
Okay, that's interesting. Um, of the episodes that you've written, which one is your favorite Thundercats episode? And which one are you the most proud of?
Well, Excalibur.
Okay, and we know why, because you love King Arthur.
But I mean, that's not to say that if I were to rewrite it now, it would be a different script, because it's very slow in the beginning and it's very predictable in the end. So if I was rewriting it now for our current audience, for adults, but maybe for kids as well, I would definitely make it more dramatic in the build-up, and I don't know what I would do differently, but I would do something different at the end. I think the idea of the two swords slugging it out is kind of a logical idea, but could come up with something a lot more original now. But no, that's my favorite. And I guess Good and Ugly, I've enjoyed more as time's gone by, because I think it's just a very simple, clean story.
With a very good message. Obviously,
Yeah, yeah,
it still speaks today, whether it's um, an episode from the 80s or not. The lesson behind it is still valid, and probably more so today in this age of social media. So
yeah, I'm sure.
with the same question for Silverhawks. Which of those episodes is your favorite, and why?
Oh, probably Zeke's fumble, which, funnily enough, is Time Capsule Revisited. And I only realized that when I was looking at your questions for our talk today, because I'm sure that's the right title, Zeke's fumble, when Pokerface gets a film. Can you believe that? A film? It looks
Yes,
like a
yes, yes.
35 mil of all the Silverhawk secrets, and he dumps it in the cab, in Seymour's cab, because he's pulled over by Lone Star, I think, or anyway, one of the Silverhawks. And basically, it's a kind of chase the capsule, but it's Time Capsule. Time Capsule had all the Thundercat secrets, but it's rather a serious story. This has all the Silverhawk secrets, but it's kind of a joke. And I like those two characters. I mean, I think we overdid Seymour's "Wanna Buy a Fish." Looking at it now, you think, oh, you could cut out 4 or 5 of them without losing anything. But it's a nice dynamic. I mean, it's so that's probably my favorite. Obviously I enjoyed writing the pilot, the origin story, because you got all that spectacular monster and rah, and this stargazer, and I love that. And you got Tallyhawk before Kenner brought in all the other toys. You've just got Tallyhawk. What a great character, kind of partly metal hawk flies through space. What? Anyways, so
Now, um, when you moved on to the next phase in your life of writing, um, you were involved with quite a number of very other popular IPs as well. But did you realize that while you were working on these other IPs, I mean, the work on a show finished long before the actual show came out? Um, so you were probably busy with other shows while Thundercats was becoming a massive hit. Um, even back then, did you realize while you were busy working on the other shows that, listen, this thing that I just worked on is exploding everywhere? Were you was that ever a realization for you at the time, or did you only find out about some of this a bit later?
Well, remember that the production schedules on Thundercats and Silverhawks were very tight. I mean, we were seeing the first Thundercats shows broadcast while we were still writing it, writing the second season. And then we were seeing the second season while we were writing, and then subsequently seeing the first Silverhawks. So I think I knew, um, that Thundercats was the most successful show in those 2 years. It was 3 or whatever years it was being broadcast, and that Silverhawks was the most successful show of the season. I think I knew that when I was going into Peter Pan, Fox's Peter Pan, which was the next show I did. And there was actually a short period of time, I don't remember how long, between the end of Rankin Bass and the beginning of Peter Pan. I mean, not much time, but it wasn't the next day. So, but again, Egmont, I get, I honestly, sometimes it's very difficult to talk about your own work and feelings about the work without either sounding insane or very arrogant. I honestly did not think much about my past work. I just didn't. Or my past life. As I think I maybe said in the last conversation, probably I need to talk to a psychiatrist about it, because, I mean, a lot of that work was terrific. It was great. I don't think I allowed myself to be proud of it. I think that's the best way to put it. I don't think and maybe somewhere in my manic depressive craziness, I thought, well, I should be saving the world. I shouldn't be writing animated scripts. I should be the president of, I don't know, whatever. Obviously, I'm joking, but that's very hard to describe. And really, and I said this to Buddha, so this whole interaction with you guys, if you don't mind being bundled up as you guys, has been eye-opening for me. And it has made me step back and say, you need to be proud of what you did. And I've never thought about that ever in anything I've ever done. There have been things that I've been proud of. I mean, in Peter Pan and the Pirates, we invented a whole language for the pirates. It came out of 17th, 16th, 17th century English pirate language. And we invented this whole language. And I was really proud of that. And there are things about Johnny Quest that I'm very proud of, despite the fact that in the end it was a disaster. But if I look back on the so-called body of work of Thundercats, wow, that was really something. And I owe that thought to you guys.
Well, I think it's the way that you've described your journey with Thundercats, that it was just a job, even though you realized at the time that it was something unique and something different, and you poured your energy into it. You moved on afterwards and lived your life and had your career and all of that, and now all of a sudden, 40 years later, this thing is catching up, because those kids back then now have the opportunity to talk to you and celebrate you. And I think it's wonderful that you have an opportunity to be showcased again to new fans of the show. I mean, it's an honor for me to just speak to you, and and spend time with the creator of something that has made such a change in so many hundreds of thousands of kids around the world. And I know I spoke with JP the other day, and I believe that you guys have an upcoming interview in Spanish that you guys are going to talk about Thundercats,
I hope so,
which
yeah.
which which is which is just so fantastic to realize that how, how big this thing is that Spanish speaking people are going to have a dedicated interview about Thundercats, and that is just so magical. So I'm really pleased that you agreed to talk about Thundercats with me, and I want to just thank you from our side as well for giving us so many wonderful memories. And I think it's even my dog is agreeing. I think it's just so fantastic to just be be given the opportunity to say thank you, and to say you can be proud of what you have given us, even without realizing it at the time. And I'm just glad that it's finally caught up to show you.
No, no,
Um,
it
Thank you.
definitely has caught up. Yeah, no, I thank you very much. Just one thing I could add, if there's time, is that yeah, I've said things are just a job, but actually I don't really feel that about any of my work. I mean, at the time that I'm doing it, I really try and bring something to it. The fact that it then passes through my life, and I in the past have not thought about it, is not an indication that I didn't care about it.
Yes, of course. I mean, it's while it is just perceived as a job. I mean, I take whatever I do personally, and it came across quite vividly that you put love into what you did, and that is still being played on DVD screens or streamed through whichever channel it is that people watch. That is still happening today. So you really did make a fantastic impact. So thank you.
That's good. Thank you. Appreciate it. We'll talk again
Well, Peter, I'd like to just say I hope we get to another opportunity to talk again in the future. There's
anytime.
always questions about Thundercats and SilverHawks that I'd like to ask. But thank you for taking the time to make yourself available to talk about this, and wish you all the best. And looking forward to seeing more Thundercats work from you in the near future. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, and anytime. Anytime you like.